Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And today we're going to be getting back to doing a 5 things learned video based on the Springboks performance up against Wales this weekend. A performance where maybe not the Boks' best performance, maybe not the most exhilarating game in terms of a flair sort of perspective, but a game that was in very tough conditions, very hard fought, and did sort of come down to the wire. And two teams who kind of went toe to toe, very similar playing style, very much defense orientated, very difficult teams to break down this weekend. And there were quite a few things we could sort of learn from this weekend. It'd be quite interesting to see, based on what we sort of picked up this weekend, what we might actually see this coming weekend against Scotland. We're just going to be sort of looking at 5 things that I picked up, or we picked up as a team. If there's anything else that you picked up that you'd like to mention, please put that in the comments as well. Please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. We are within 100 subscribers of getting to 9,000 subscribers, which is very exciting. So please do your part. Smash like on the video as well. Basically, this is just looking at a couple of small sort of things that we sort of picked up, and let me know if you agree with them. If you don't agree with them, it's just quite interesting on an end of year tour after so many sort of ups and downs already this year with the Springboks. It's sort of interesting to sort of see a couple of small sort of things, and as the team sort of continues to grow as a side. And I think that's quite interesting. Is that the coaching staff keep talking about the Springboks as very much a process driven team and very much still sort of finding their feet and still growing as a side. I think it's because as a coaching staff, before the World Cup, I was all quite rushed, sort of 2018, 2019 season, trying to get it all together. Then having a 2020 season, 21 season, also a little bit like the sort of 2018 season, where we kind of just had to sort of throw a team together after quite a while on the playing together. And now we're sort of started building to sort of momentum going into what will be the 2023 World Cup in 2 years' time. Without any further ado, let's go look at a couple of things that we picked up over the course of the 80 minutes. So something that we saw during the Rugby Championship is with that cameo of Frans Steyn when we beat the All Blacks in the final test is, can he still perform at this level? We understand, Frans Steyn might be one of the most talented rugby players this country has ever produced. But before that sort of New Zealand game, when he had played, a couple of people sort of saying that he looks a bit heavy, looks a bit off the pace. Obviously, there's been no doubting his sort of quality when it comes to the boot he has and defensively and stuff like that. But a couple of questions of can he still play an extended period of time at test match level and still be able to affect the game like he used to back in his youth. If he does get named in the side for this coming weekend or makes an appearance, he will have officially sort of become the longest, would have had the longest international career of a Springbok player ever, with a career that is extended over sort of 15 years, which is quite incredible. But this weekend, I think, we finally sort of saw Frans Steyn, a little bit of the Frans Steyn we used to know, somebody that doesn't necessarily have that turn of pace, but still a very capable ball carrier, still very solid under the high ball. He just didn't do too much wrong this weekend. It was really good to see that, back at full back, he had everything he needed to still function and be the man of the match, which sort of shows you that he was still within a couple of best players on the pitch. And it was quite a big relief. And I think that's probably the first big sort of sign that he could go on to play in the 2023 World Cup, because he did play I think he played 70 minutes almost and was very good across that 70 minutes. So it was good to see him playing back at his best rugby in a Springbok jersey. Now, I don't think this can be really debated, but the Springbok front row have been absolutely tremendous this year. Up against British and Irish Lions, there's some major moments where the Springbok front row pitched up and out-scrummed them. They've demolished Argentina. They demolished New Zealand at times. They had a really good go at Australia at times as well. And they absolutely decimated Wales up front as well. And what I think is one of the reasons we've got the best scrum in the world is just the sheer depth. The fact that we've got such a powerful front row, which starts out and demolished Wales across 2 scrums. Unfortunately, only 1 scrum in the first half, so they didn't really manage to get that ascendancy they might have. But then to have that sort of bomb squad front row, just sort of pick up where they left off, I think it's the Springboks' biggest weapon. And I don't think there can be too much debating that it is currently the most informed front row in the world, and it will become a major part of the Springbok sort of game plan moving forward, is being able to sort of use the scrum to to score points. And that's what we kind of saw. Scrum had a scrum, they won a penalty, we kicked deep, and then we used them more in the weekend. So it's a massive attacking option, and even it almost becomes an attacking option inside our own half, because we do scrum, we can scrum in our own half, and almost every time we are pushing for a penalty, that allows us to get into decent positions where we can then sort of start putting pressure on the opposition. So whilst the Springboks didn't necessarily, turn it on and become the team with the most flair ever this weekend, despite what was pretty miserable conditions, we did see the Boks sometimes keeping ball in hand more. And even if they're not necessarily keeping in hand more, and even when they went to the boot, we suddenly started to see a couple of shifts towards a bit more of an attacking nature. We saw a couple of chips in behind, a couple of grubbers by Andre Pollard. I think the Boks did try to start doing a few more things on the attack this past weekend. Obviously, still not where a lot of people want it to be, but what was quite interesting is despite the really, really bad conditions, in terms of meters gained and meters run by the Springboks, it was in amongst the most meters run the entire year. I think it was only that first Argentina game down in Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape where we actually had run more meters. We ran more than double the amount of meters that Wales did. Far more defenders beaten, 19 defenders beaten across the weekend. So, I think it's sort of this process. We keep talking about the fact that the longer we play, will we start seeing the Boks keeping ball in hand? And there were a couple of times where the Springboks had 12, 13, almost 15 phases. So it was good to start seeing the Boks with a bit more ball in hand. And I think that hopefully we'll see it even more against Scotland, who are a side, where kicking can be a little bit dangerous because they're a side that loves to play on the counter, that loves an amount of openness and expansive nature to the game. And I think we sort of saw signs this past weekend. A lot of people are still complaining about the kicking game, but we also saw the effectiveness of it, with the Kobus Reinach box kick, which then, could have almost resulted in a Maxwell Pimpy try. Maybe it should have resulted in a try. So, a kick can still be an attacking option, but I do think that we did start seeing a little bit more sort of ball in hand from the Springboks, which was quite nice to see this past weekend. So a player who's created quite a lot of sort of division within Springboks sort of fans, and this goes back to the sort of continued focus and sort of, it's almost like an obsession with size when it comes to Springbok players. Somebody like a Franco Mostert, who's getting his 50th test this weekend, was often called far too small to play for the Springboks, despite, weighing in at over 100 kgs and standing at sort of about, I think it's about 198, almost 2 meters tall, and yet he's sort of being branded too small. People saying that Lua Dialga is far better because he's bigger. And I think Kwaka Smith, has been a victim of this sort of mentality for quite a few years now, where a lot of people are very hesitant to sort of rate him because of his size and because you're so small. To go from Pieter-Steph du Toit to Kwaka Smith, there is a very large difference in the sort of the weight that he brings. However, I think that if you do not rate Kwaka Smith after the past 3 games he's had for the Springboks, you just don't want to. It's got nothing to do with the fact of being objective. You just obviously don't want to, because I think that over the past 3 games, Kwaka Smith is starting to show, week in, week out, what he doesn't have in size, he makes up with, ability and a skill set that is so important. Had some massive turnovers this weekend, put in a lot of tackles, was very good with ball in hand. And I think this loose trio, weirdly enough, it's not a very traditional loose trio when it comes to a Springbok squad, but as a loose trio together, I think they are functioning very, very well. Kwaka Smith being so versatile and being so quick and around the park means we are starting to see Siya Kolisi taking up some positions out wide as a very strong ball carrier. You saw him running over Williams this weekend. And I think Kwaka Smith has really sort of put his hand up and almost becoming indispensable to this Boks. And I think that when Pieter-Steph du Toit comes back, he obviously goes with the starting lineup and he's a former World Player of the Year. But I do think that Kwaka Smith has become invaluable within the 23 of the Springboks. And it's good to start seeing that a lot of South African public are starting to realize what Rassie Erasmus, Jacques Nienaber, and the entire coaching staff do see within that player. So something which I think a lot of Springbok fans just need to sort of wrap their heads around. And a lot of people sort of are sort of now looking at it retrospectively and sort of looking at previous teams and stuff like that. But in terms of the way Springboks play, and the Springboks in the past have been blessed with some incredible attacking backline players. You talk about the greats, the likes of Adani Gerber, you think of Brian Habana, you think of Jean de Villiers back in his heyday. You can think of some phenomenal South African backline players. However, this team is still very much a forward-dominated team. And that's kind of sort of where the frustration comes, with the comparisons to the All Blacks, who attack with their backs. That's where they have that's where they punish teams. Their forwards are obviously very, very good, the All Blacks, but they sort of are there to provide a platform to let their backs have fun. Springboks are very much the opposite type of team. They attack through their forwards. We play through our forwards. And why wouldn't you when you think that you probably have one of the, if not the best pack in the world? And that's what we're saying. On Saturday, we saw scrum dominance, winning a penalty, getting a penalty, kicking it deep, going to the maul and just literally physically battering Wales down eventually. And the Springbok pack has been one of the main reasons we've been able to sort of compete with the British and Irish Lions and sort of have the success we've had in the last couple of years. And I don't think it's going to change too much. At the end of the day, you've got, especially when it comes to international level, you've got to look at what you've got on paper and use what you've got. And whilst Obviously, there are very exciting backline players in a Lukanya, in a Ches and Colby, when he starts playing that player faster, X-factor players. The physicality and the brute force and the sheer dominance of our pack cannot be, more prominently sort of focused on. And we will continue to be a forward-based team until that starts to change. So yes, we might want to start seeing more sort of backline play and sort of being more enterprising. But at the end of the day, the Boks are blessed with world-class talent, world-class depth as well. Far more depth in the forwards than they do in the backline. And until that sort of starts changing, we will continue to be a very much forward-dominated side. And as long as this works, I don't see much of an issue with it. But let me know what you thought of the game down in the comments below. Let me know if there's anything else you picked up. If you disagree with what I'm saying, I want to know down in the comments below. Smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. My name is Steven. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll chat to you soon.